From what can now be learnt of the character of the original and untitled Robert Peel, he must have been a remarkable man, shrewd, sagacious, and far-seeing. But little is known of him excepting from traditions, and the sons of those who knew him are fast passing away. His son, Sir Robert, thus modestly spoke of him, "My father may be truly said to have been the founder of our family." And he so accurately appreciated the importance of commercial wealth in a national point of view, that he was often heard to say that the gains to individuals were small compared with the national gains arising from trade. Sir Robert Peel, the first baronet and the second manufacturer of the name, inherited all his father's enterprise, ability, and industry. His position, at starting in life, was little above that of an ordinary working man. For his father, though laying the foundations of future prosperity, was still struggling with the difficulties arising from insufficient capital. When Robert was only 20 years of age, he determined to begin the business of cotton printing, which he had by this time learned from his father, on his own account. His uncle, James Haworth, and William Yates of Blackburn, joined him in his enterprise. The whole capital which they could raise amongst them amounting to only about 500, the principal part of which was supplied by William Yates. The father of the latter was a householder in Blackburn, where he was well known and much respected. And having saved money by his business, he was willing to advance sufficient to give his son a start in the lucrative trade of cotton printing, then in its infancy. Robert Peel, though comparatively a mere youth, supplied the practical knowledge of the business. But it was said of him, and proved true, that he carried an old head on young shoulders. A ruined corn mill, with its adjoining fields, was purchased for a comparatively small sum, near the then insignificant town of Bury, where the works long after continued to be known as the Ground. And a few wooden sheds having been run up, the firm commenced their cotton printing business in a very humble way in the year 1770, adding to it that of cotton spinning a few years later. The frugal style in which the partners lived may be inferred from the following incident in their early career. William Yates, being a married man with a family, commenced housekeeping on a small scale, and, to oblige Peel, who was single, he agreed to take him as a lodger. The sum which the latter first paid for board and lodging was only 8 seconds a week. But Yates, considering this too little, insisted on the weekly payment being increased to £1, to which Peel at first demurred, and a difference between the partners took place, which was eventually compromised by the lodger paying an advance of 6 pence a week. William Yates's eldest child was a girl named Ellen, and she very soon became an especial favorite with the young lodger. On returning from his hard day's work at the Ground, he would take the little girl upon his knee, and say to her, "Nelly, thou bonny little dear, wilt be my wife?" To which the child would readily answer yes, as any child would do. "Then I'll wait for thee, Nelly. I'll wed thee, and none else." And Robert Peel did wait. As the girl grew in beauty towards womanhood, his determination to wait for her was strengthened. And after the lapse of 10 years, years of close application to business and rapidly increasing prosperity, Robert Peel married Ellen Yates when she had completed her 17th year. And the pretty child, whom her mother's lodger and father's partner had nursed upon his knee, became Mrs. Peel, and eventually Lady Peel, the mother of the future Prime Minister of England. Lady Peel was a noble and beautiful woman, fitted to grace any station in life. She possessed rare powers of mind, and was, on every emergency, the high-souled and faithful counselor of her husband. For many years after their marriage, she acted as his amanuensis, conducting the principal part of his business correspondence, for Mr. Peel himself was an indifferent and almost unintelligible writer. She died in 1803, only 3 years after the baronetcy had been conferred upon her husband. It is said that London fashionable life, so unlike what she had been accustomed to at home, proved injurious to her health. And old Mr. Yates afterwards used to say, if Robert hadn't made our Nelly a lady, she might ha' been living yet. The career of Yates, Peel, & Company, was throughout one of great and uninterrupted prosperity. Sir Robert Peel himself was the soul of the firm. To great energy and application uniting much practical sagacity and first-rate mercantile abilities, qualities in which many of the early cotton spinners were exceedingly deficient. He was a man of iron mind and frame, and toiled unceasingly. In short, he was to cotton printing what Arkwright was to cotton spinning, and his success was equally great. The excellence of the articles produced by the firm secured the command of the market, and the character of the firm stood preeminent in Lancashire. Besides greatly benefiting Barry, the partnership planted similar extensive works in the neighborhood, on the Irwell and the Rock. And it was cited to their honor, that, while they sought to raise to the highest perfection the quality of their manufactures, they also endeavored, in all ways, to promote the well-being and comfort of their workpeople, for whom they contrived to provide remunerative employment even in the least prosperous times. Sir Robert Peel readily appreciated the value of all new processes and inventions, in illustration of which we may allude to his adoption of the process for producing what is called resist work in calico printing. This is accomplished by the use of a paste, or resist, on such parts of the cloth as were intended to remain white. The person who discovered the paste was a traveller for a London house, who sold it to Mr. Peel for an inconsiderable sum. It required the experience of a year or two to perfect the system and make it practically useful. But the beauty of its effect, and the extreme precision of outline in the pattern produced, at once placed the Barry establishment at the head of all the factories for calico printing in the country. Other firms, conducted with like spirit, were established by members of the same family at Burnley, Fogsilbank, and Altham, in Lancashire, Sally Abbey, in Yorkshire, and afterwards at Burton-on-Trent, in Staffordshire. These various establishments, whilst they brought wealth to their proprietors, setting an example to the whole cotton trade, and training up many of the most successful printers and manufacturers in Lancashire. Among other distinguished founders of industry, the Reverend William Lee, inventor of the stocking frame, and John Heathcote, inventor of the bobbin net machine, are worthy of notice, as men of great mechanical skill and perseverance, through whose labors a vast amount of remunerative employment has been provided for the laboring population of Nottingham and the adjacent districts. The accounts which have been preserved of the circumstances connected with the invention of the stocking frame are very confused, and in many respects contradictory, though there is no doubt as to the name of the inventor. This was William Lee, born at Woodborough, a village some 7 miles from Nottingham, about the year 1563. According to some accounts, he was the heir to a small freehold, while according to others he was a poor scholar, and had to struggle with poverty from his earliest years. He entered as a Caesar at Christ College, Cambridge, in May, 1579, and subsequently removed to St. John's, taking his degree of B.A. in 1582-3. It is believed that he commenced M.A. in 1586. But on this point there appears to be some confusion in the records of the university. The statement usually made that he was expelled for marrying contrary to the statutes, is incorrect, as he was never a fellow of the university, and therefore could not be prejudiced by taking such a step.